Three, 7, 11, 12, 13. 3, 7, 11, 12, 13. 3, 7, 11, 12, 13, 19, and 22. Twenty-two, 25. Right, 2 luck numbers. 2 luck numbers. Zvirise Machifero. Only the brave keep standing. Thank you, Mkomo. Crimsono. Thank you so much, Zimbabweans. I'm trying to look for my microphone. My mic. Trying to look for my microphone. I can't find it. So without my microphone, I might be like got it. I got it, guys. Zvirise maZimbabweans maswera sei vana veZimbabwe. Hakuna vhevhe nasi, hakuna vhevhe. Hakuna munhu ari kuda kuvhaira. Pane munhu ari kuda kuvhaira nasi. Munhu ari kuvhaira. Some people are kuvhaira. Happy Easter. Thank you, 𝗬𝗎𝗨𝗥. So, happy Easter to you all Zimbabweans. Nai. Hanzi Jesu wakafa Friday ndokumuka nasi. Ameno. Handinyatsonzwisa zvinhu zveEaster. Handinyatsonzwisa nechida kutodzidziswawo naye kuti ndizvo here. Privi Zvirise Mukoma Zvirise ndakasimba. We can hear you loud and clear. Thanks. I found the microphone. Zvoi zvakadero. Thanks so much. Takuzvo. I'm not going to wait for people today. Because vamwe vanosara vouya, vamwe vauya kusa in time, vamwe vanosara vouya pasina, vamwe vanenge vapera data. So remember what I was discussing yesterday. I was saying it's not corruption, it's not sanction that has destroyed Zimbabwe. Mkoma Webi Zvirise, it's not sanction that has destroyed Zimbabwe. I think me and my colleagues and myself, we really understand the impact of sanctions on our country, and we really understand the impact of corruption in our country. So our country is not suffered from sanction, but we suffered from corruption. We have seen quite a number of government officials involving in corruption. Before 10, thank you, Rashi. Ishmael Zvirise, network yangu ma1. Nasim Koma Yuda. Happy Easter to every Zimbabwean. This Easter, I think someone announced this about Easter. I don't really understand about Easter. Izware izvinoitirwe vamwe zvara kumuka kwaJesu ameno vamwe vanenge vakudya ma-Easter eggs. Saka I don't really understand the theories behind Easter. Chatomboita nguva yekuzviverenga kuti ndizvinzwisise kuti chii chinonzi Easter zvinomboya sei, zvakambotanga sei. But anyway, let's get down into business. Zimbabweans, they've got a belief that sanction There are a quarter of Zimbabweans who believe that sanctions have taken its toll on our economy. And the majority of Zimbabweans do not believe that. Majority of Zimbabweans, they believe that it is corruption that has destroyed our Zimbabwe. Jola urise mkwambo. Mundakamirira motikari yangu. Kudzizirise pakaipa. Ladies and gentlemen. So no one, if we look at all the corruption that was reported in Zimbabwe since 1980, there was only one, Frederick Shawa, who was convicted for corruption, and he was pardoned within a few days in prison. He was pardoned for corruption. So we can safely say no one was ever arrested for corruption during Robert Mugabe. Rather, he successfully promoted most of the culprits from their wrongdoing. We talked about this. For instance, we gave a very good example of the case of Frederick Shawa, 𝗭𝗓𝗥 𝗔𝗓𝗪, to name just a few. Currently, Frederick Shawa is the Zimbabwe representative for economic and social affairs, and Ignatius Chombo, of the most corrupt ministers to emerge in independent Zimbabwe, owns a lot of properties in Zimbabwe through nasty deals. So people, those who believe that it's corruption, they should start looking into Frederick Shawa, 𝗭𝗓𝗥, they should look into Ignatius Chombo's matters. And I don't believe in Easter myself, Yuda. It's one of all distorted and the commercialized Christian holidays. I believe so, Mkoma Joe. I don't really understand much about Easter, so I might need someone to teach me. Pakaipa. He was just convicted for 2 days, I think. Then the following day he was pardoned. The third day he was pardoned. This was Frederick Shawa, convicted of corruption and was pardoned. So if we look at those corrupt ministers like Ignatius Chombo, he is one of the most corrupt ministers to have ever emerged in the independent Zimbabwe, in the history of Zimbabwe. Let's say in the history of Zimbabwe, the gentleman owns properties in Zimbabwe through nasty deals, through corruption. His company, he has got a company known as 𝗭𝗓𝗥 Investment, was controversially awarded a contract to widen Harare International Airport. Imagine Ignatius Chombo's company known as 𝗭𝗓𝗥 Investment. It is the only company that went through the tender without any other competitor, and it was awarded this tender to widen Harare International Airport. Harare International Airport Road, Queensway. We used to call that one Queensway. Ignatius Chombo's company was given that contract to widen that road. And he was also given contract to upgrade the Joshua Nkomo Airport in Bulawayo. He just awarded himself. And Mugabe himself was aware of all the shenanigans that were being done by his people, all the deals, all the corruption that was being done by Zanu PF leaders. Mugabe knew about it. He knew about it because the mere fact that Mugabe pardoned Frederick Shawa, that he was aware of all the shenanigans which were happening during that time. A good example, in 1995, let's look back in 1995, Leo Mugabe was controversially awarded a 5 million, we are talking of 1995, where someone was awarded controversially a 5 million tender to construct a new Harare International Airport. It was given to Leo Mugabe to construct a new Harare International Airport in 1995. So that deal was costing, that contract costed the government about 5 million pounds through his company known as 𝗭𝗓𝗥 Technologies. When the tender was initially awarded to the Prince of France, which was later reversed in favor of Leo Mugabe's company because of his relationship to Robert Mugabe. So we look at those things. So today I've got no time to greet you guys. I'm sorry. I just need to quickly rush into this issue of corruption. In Zimbabwe, only people sing, but they don't do. We're looking at corruption. Today, I'm not going to greet you guys. Welcome you. I welcome you. Happy Easter. But let's look at the corruption. Yahweh, corruption, not sanction. We will talk about sanctions later on, but let's look at the impact of corruption on our economy, the impact of corruption on Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe's economy. People today cry, sanctions, sanctions. They don't really understand the meaning of sanctions. They don't really understand the meaning of corruption. The two are not the same. The two are not the same. Corruption is the worst form of corruption. Corruption is the worst form of corruption in the world. I know. And the 𝗭𝗓𝗥 in that contract, he partnered with the 𝗭𝗵𝗁𝗕𝗃𝗧𝗏 son. But Mugabe knew all about it. 𝗭𝗓𝗥 had no capacity whatsoever to widen that road. He had no capacity whatsoever. So that was corruption which was done during Mugabe's era. And no one was arrested. 𝗭𝗓𝗥's company, because he was awarded this because of his relationship to Gabriel Robert Mugabe. So we look at 𝗬𝗏𝗏, the brother wa Grace Mugabe, who was also awarded 821,000 Zimbabwe dollars. During that time, it was almost 500,000 US dollars under the War Victims Compensation. Mugabe knew about it. This was Grace Mugabe's brother, 𝗬𝗏𝗏, who was awarded 821,666 under the victims compensation after he was awarded 95% disability. Look at how corruption started. Look at how corruption impacted on Zimbabwe. We are looking at 𝗬𝗏𝗏, who was working as a CIO. That guy, he claimed to have 95% disability. And you wonder what type of a doctor who will certify a living gentleman, a working gentleman, someone who's working on his tools, who's driving, who's running, who's taking a rest, who's working 24/7, to say that type of a person has got 95% disability simply because he was Grace Mugabe's brother. Such was the level of corruption and abuse of office that we witnessed in an independent Zimbabwe during Mugabe's regime. So people would say sanctions. Can sanctions award 𝗭𝗏𝗏 a company for 5 million US dollars but did not do anything? Can sanction award 𝗬𝗏𝗏 900,000 Zim dollar for 95% disability? Then someone has got guts to stand and say sanctions. Honestly, we are not blind, ladies and gentlemen. Sanction is the worst. Sanction is worse than even vending. The latter sanction is very dangerous. The morals of individuals in a country are driven to the extreme by corruption. Let's not look at sanctions, because sanctions have never awarded anyone a tender. Sanctions have never even told Chombo to steal land. Sanctions have never even told Bonamgabe to buy 20 hectares for 2,300. Sanctions have never even awarded 𝗬𝗏𝗏 95% disability to earn 900,000 US dollars. Then people would call sanctions. They would say sanctions have destroyed our country. It is corruption, which is the major obstruction to sustainable economic development in our country. During Mugabe era, we saw a lot of corruption. That was the beginning of corruption. Good governance should be a priority, ladies and gentlemen, where government officials should be accountable. This is what President Chamisa was saying. The government officials must be accountable for their actions. If you are not accountable for your actions, then this creates an environment rich of corrupt maggots. Corrupt maggots are like the Frederick Showers, are like the Ignatius Chombos. These are the maggots that I'm talking about. the elements of corruption, the stakeholders of corruption. So lack of accountability has created though. And Mugabe was at the forefront of obstructing justice to say Frederick Shawa, despite being convicted, must be released from prison, using his presidential powers to ensure that a corrupt maggot is released from prison. And Mugabe was never serious about fighting corruption. It became rampant during his regime. So looking at sanction, at corruption, looking at corruption, you look at a good example of how a number of farms were distributed to each public officer or to each minister. How many how many farms does these ministers have? And they were given orders by Mugabe to say, Mugabe used to give them orders to say ownership of this land must be for blacks, and it never benefited every black person. Hence, you see, Zimbabweans today, we still talk about land. We still talk about landless people in the country. We still talk about homeless Zimbabweans in a country where land was distributed to people for free. And all the corruption that Mugabe did in Zimbabwe, a rating. Zimbabwe is ranked among the most corrupt countries in the world. It is ranked together with Nigeria and Somalia, one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Zimbabwe was ranked, already ended that rank during the Mugabe era. And when ED came, we thought things would settle down, but he has continued with that errant behavior that Mugabe showed. As Mona challenge yes one Jonathan Moyo did hope Vaipindrao corruption and nepotism. I will check on that Mkoma Elvis. So we are talking about corruption and sanctions. I'm trying to show Zimbabweans to see that it's not sanctions. Don't buy Zanu PF propaganda. It's not sanctions that have destroyed our country. It's corruption that has destroyed our country. This is why you see we are ranked top among countries such as Nigeria and Somalia. On a scale of 0, if we look on a scale of 0, which is highly corrupt, to 100, which is very clean, Zimbabwe is ranked 24 of 100. On a scale of 0 to 100. 0 being the highest corrupt country. Sorry guys, so I'm saying on a scale of 0, 0 being the highest corrupt country in the world, to 100, Zimbabwe is ranked number 24 of 100 on that scale, to show that probably in SADC or in SADC we are the highest corrupt country. That is, we are the highest country. We are the highest corrupt country, or country with the highest practices of corruption. So you have to open your eyes, ladies and gentlemen. It is so embarrassing that Zimbabwe will become one of the corrupt countries in the world. Even if you look at the Transparency International Zimbabwe, it is, and we've achieved 160 least corrupt nation of 180 countries. If we look at the 2020 index of economic freedom, Zimbabwe is ranked 45th and 47th countries in the sub-Sahara Africa region. We've become an embarrassment even to Africa. We have become an embarrassment to SADC. We have become an embarrassment even to ourselves. We are so embarrassed to be Zimbabweans. the magnitude of corruption practice in our country, it leaves you and me embarrassed. Ukamira pa kuti utaura kuti Zimbabwe zvonyadzisa. Andiri muona. The nature and level of corruption is a matter of concern for every right-thinking Zimbabwean. The nature and level of corruption that is exhibited by Zanu PF, it's your concern, it's my concern, it's a matter of concern to a sane Zimbabwean. We are so embarrassed. We are so embarrassed, and we are an embarrassment to the world. Zimbabweans, wherever they go, we are treated like trash. We are not given the respect which is accorded to other nationals. Ukaenda ku Zambia unzwa kuti hanzi pane muZimbabwe pane mbavha. Ukaenda ku South Africa varunzi maZimbabweans vari kupfura vanhu ndidzo mbavha. You understand what I mean? So the nature and level of corruption is so embarrassing. To identify yourself as a Zimbabwean under those conditions, you will be embarrassed. Those are kuona wafana vamwe watosangana nawo muno. Vanotaura ndevelo ukamubvunza, where are you from? Unzwa achitaura kuti I come from South Africa. But ukanzwa akutaura ukanzwa muSouth African South African vaneka accent. Vaneka muka accent kuti South Africans. Kazonzwa wedu isusu wokumusha ukamubvunza hana karata iko kaika hana. Ugona ubva watoziva kuti ndiwo kugwanda. Ndiwo kuPlundering kana nkai. But munhu akagarawo muSouth Africa, but akatadza kupika karata kemaSouth Africans kaika. Ukabvunza muZulu wekuSouth Africa, ukamisa muZulu wekuZimbabwe, akazvarwa kuZimbabwe ukamisa muZulu wekuSouth Africa wakati taurai ndevele, you can tell that this is northern Africa, northern Zimbabwe or northern party ndevele. It's not Zulu, proper Zulu. So vaneka maZulu kana maSouth African maXhosa vaneka rata kavanako kavanotaura kekuti iwe waukwanisa ukataura kana usiri muSouth African usiri muZulu usina kuberekerwa ikoko. Andiri mukoma Shapiro zviri sei. So nyaya iyoyo ndiye kutaura kuti the nature and the level of corruption is a matter of concern for every rational Zimbabwean, but very unlikely that policymakers will ever be able to fix it. Those guys vamuri kuona vari kuisa chinonzi chibhiri regai nditombobvisa ngirina hanzi hatichadi 𝗭𝗥𝗘𝗰𝗎 as if manufacture cars. Atombobvisa topi ndikutsva hanzi vatanga vanhu vanogadzira motikari hanzi havasikuda ma𝗭𝗥𝗘𝗰𝗎 cars. Ukavabvunza kuti imi muri kuda dzipi dzeZimbabwe, Zimbabwe haina kana kumbomanufacture even a car. Sorry guys, I was burning. Muri kupisa muno vanenge vaisa amaive muno vanenge vanoisa oni ngirine heating yavo kana vandora panongotanga live amai vanoisa oni heating yavo. Zvinhu zvinorwadza, ladies and gentlemen. This is very, very painful. Ukada kuona the government, all those guys vari muhurumende Zanu, they are not going to fix the issue of corruption. Because whoever enters, even kana vamwe vataifunga vataifamba navo MDC, they are jumping into it. Varuja, they jumped into Zanu PF. But they've seen that it's pointless to fight Zanu PF when Zanu PF is doing corruption and they are eating. When you do your corruption, when you eat, you're immune to arrest and prosecution. They are going there for immunity to arrests and prosecution because and they are looking at 𝗭𝗔𝗡𝗕𝗪𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗦 Mnangagwa havasina ma5 years vari vapenyu vaiva vanachiwenga vaiva kumona achizosurvive ka next 10 years ameno kuti mwari wacho vanenge vari mwari wani. Saka uri kuona kuti vari kuenda ikoko vana 𝗭𝗵𝗶𝗃, vana 𝗁𝗏𝗏𝗃, chavaakuendera kuenda kunoita corruption they know when they do corruption, they're immune to arrest and prosecution. So government, instead of government to put and monitor mechanism that avoid corruption, it is the government that is corrupt. The government officials are the ones who are corrupt. Like corruption outside the government, then you would know that the mechanisms of the government will do a check and balance on them. But unfortunately, it's the government officials, those who are in power and those who are associated to those in power, who are corrupt themselves. Anzi natetifele taura myself out, I should not or sellouts. So the effectiveness of state institutions associated with fighting corruption calls for a proper and a clear-sighted initiative and anti-corruption could get it pinte panu varume ngatite corruption vise corruption, but political patronage of those people has assured them that they are not going to arrest anyone who is connected. So the role of those institutions tasked to fight corruption in Zimbabwe is just rubber stamping decisions that were never investigated. And those decisions will never go against Zanu PF. Government officials, my members of parliament, Zanu, my councillors, government bureaucrats mostly think that they should make the most of the present political arrangement because there is no guarantee that they will retain their positions. If we look at them today, they are making an opportunity to, because there is no guarantee that you will be voted back into parliament. So Zanu PF, once they get that opportunity, they make sure they utilize that opportunity. They make corruption unotapirirwa unoneta kana wachita corruption varumao. The first track yavakaita yeland resettlement from 2000 to 2005, it shows you something. It was haphazardly done. It was done to give themselves land by to identify Ramapraz Madara Zanu Dara Torai. So we need a government that address the vices of corruption. We need a government that look into the world, how other countries are run, considering these vices of corruption. Our economy is always deep in trouble. Our economy is always, economy in Nika should be appetizing to attract. If your economy is appetizing, it attracts investors to come to your country. But when it's not appetizing, the policies of the country are not appetizing. So we are like authoring the death of a nation. The death of corruption is authorship of the death of a nation. And when the nation dies, it means natural death to the people of that country. Because already we are in a country that implements corruption. Zimbabwe is a country that implements corruption. So if you implement corruption, you are signing the death certificate of the nation. After you sign the death certificate of the nation, it means the whole population, it will succumb. Zafane mwana ari mudumbu, mai vakafa, kazhinji kacho mwana anofa. And King T, say, the economic crisis in our country today, when we thought it was improving, it is deepening. The crisis is deepening. It is characterized by negative growth as a result of jobless growth. Akusina mabasa zvachose zvazve. Panguva yaMugabe maimboti 88% unemployment, 90% unemployment. This is total 100% unemployment. And there is this ruthlessness that 𝗔 Mnangagwa and his government has adopted. The ruthlessness has increased inequality in socio-economic environment of our country. Only those who are connected and who are powerful are the only people eating today. So we have adopted a culture, a corruption, a corrupt environment, or a corrupt socio-economic culture that has nailed the last nail on, that has hit the last nail on our coffin. As Zimbabweans, our country is suffering, our country is struggling, not because of sanctions, but it's because of corruptions. And corruption has destroyed generations and generations of Zimbabweans. This is why you see our leaders, or the leadership we currently have today, it does not care. It does not care. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. What they care is about squandering resources of a nation, which are needed to build the future of the current generations. So far, we've got 5 generations wasted by Zanu PF. But how about the future of your children, my children? What are we going to build their future on? This is something that Zimbabweans must consider seriously. If we don't consider that, we are not moving anywhere. Thanks, Mkoma Rogers. It's 𝗖𝗙𝗥 that has overtaken, it's 𝗖𝗙𝗥 that has taken over the governance of a country. Umbava ndo watukutaura nezvawo panapa. And some people here do not understand if I say corruption. I want you to really understand, guys. Chinchino's corruption. Chinchino's corruption, Warume. It is very difficult to come up with a conclusive definition of the word we call corruption. But it is to see actions that translate into corruption. Academics, they try to define corruption. But for you to actually make a true definition, this is the exactly definition of corruption, it is not easy. It is really difficult, very, very difficult. But it is to see the actions that define corruption. It is to see corruption being translated, the action that translates corruption. If you look at people doing corruption, you can end up a building with a passport. You cannot define what you find, what you see there, but you can only see the actions of corruption. Unoswera apo passport haibudi. Kune munhu ari kungoya kuseni, oenda kuseri kwekobvanzi dusa, otodusa otoisa mhomwe, otonzi tendera unokolekta passport yako kuseri. Shepherd yuta, se, otosainira passport yako, otobuda wakurova pasi. So this is why the definition of corruption. It's not easy to define it, but you can actually see it happening. The action that translates into corruption is visible. So if you look at, go to Britain, here in England, they've got their definition of corruption, which is different from our definition of corruption in Zimbabwe. So every country has got what they call corruption. They define their corruption differently. They don't define it the way we define it. But it has got cultural norms, things that you actually see and actually judge in a society that, oh, this is corrupt. Muno mu UK ukatoenda undoona kuti pana paritopinzwa munhu basa zvechizivano zviya. That is what we call corruption. Once Mr. Yuda dzokerai kuchivheti chatajaira mazimba mashoma vanonzwa isi we are good Lu. We need Lumumba and Malema type of thinking, not all this nonsense. So I'm not sure what type of thinking my brother is talking about, but we are looking into corruption. some people, they blame sanction. It's not about sanction. It's about corruption. Corruption is in the society for something, nothing for nothing. This is exactly what our icon, the hero of our lifetime, Dr. Thomas Mapfumo song said, with corruption in the president's office, nothing for nothing, something for something. That is corruption. It's not easy to define, but you can tell with action that, oh, this is corruption. The action translates into action, into corruption. So this is something that people of Zimbabwe, the society of Zimbabwe should understand. It also depends on the background of people involved, legal judgments, perceptions, and level of development of the community. If you look at the judgments being handed down by our Supreme Courts, the judgments being handed down in Zimbabwe by the judiciary system, that translates into corruption. That translates into corruption. It's one of the actions. These are the actions that you clearly see that, oh, right, this is corruption. You can tell that Malaba is jittery whenever he's announcing his judgment. So that legal judgment, you can tell that there is corruption here going ahead. So as Zimbabweans, ladies and gentlemen, corruption, because you don't see, you see it, but you ignore. You are not taking any action to stop the evil. Once the evil starts, it's difficult to stop it. And if you watch without stopping evil things happening, then that means you are destroying a country. Zimbabweans, we destroyed Zimbabwe by accepting those corrupt activities to proceed or to go ahead whilst we watch. We never took action. If you look at, let's say, the things that have affected Zimbabwe, or the definitions which were given, when a World Bank, if they say Zimbabwe is a corrupt country, they put their definitions of corruption. What they mean if they say Zimbabwe is a corrupt country. So from their definition, they conclude that there is corruption happening in Zimbabwe. This is why you see even World Bank, what are you doing about this? World Bank, you engage in corrupt activities that won't generate money to World Bank. As a result, you fail to pay the World Bank, and you want them to continue giving you money. Vachikupai imimi zvikwereti musingadzosere. Ukabvunza zvikwereti zvacho zvakaenda kupi, mari dzacho dzakaenda kuna Swiss Bank. Makatora dzese mari mukarongerera maaccounts enyu amunodya nevana venyu, muchitenga motikari dzamoda muchidriver, muchivaka mamansion. If you go and see the mansions being built by the Uzati Chiwenga, ngataure mari yakawana Chiwenga ari army general from 1980. He was the army general from 1980 up to now for 40 years. How much did he earn? That can build him a mansion. That can build him 4 mansions. You understand? How much did Chiwenga earn in 40 years? That can build him 4 mansions. So the World Bank, vanenge vachizviona. Vana United Nations vanokupa zvikwereti, ma UNDP vanenge vachizviona that these people are corrupt. And more. Although there are many definitions, as I've said, the definitions of corruption are defined by countries according to the actions that they see in their countries. As to what is corruption, they see as to what is corruption. It is very clear that corruption is centered in our country. If you look, as everyone is surviving under corruption, from head of state to a civilian. So this is what we want to stop. And we know we can stop it. Apana banonzi corruption aimiswe and aimisike mZimbabwe. Corruption inomisika. corruption inomisika, but maZimbabweans kana musati mada kuti corruption imiswe, ndimi chete motaura kuti hamusoda kuti corruption imiswe, but you are the only people, the owners of a country, who can make this corruption imiswe, because in our country it is centered on public officers' power, is what Farai has just written here. Corruption in our country is centered on public officers' power, authority and influence to divert public resources for personal gain. This is what we see in our country. Everything, all the resources of a country, they are all diverted to personal gains of individuals, not the country, not the population. And if you look at everything that I've said in regard to definition of corruption, we have seen that the wealth of a country yakaunganidzwa maoko evashoma, in the few people. This unethical means of getting wealth or extracting wealth from a starving nation, from a dying economy, using my advantages to say, because you are a minister like Chombo, because you are connected like 𝗭𝗵𝗁𝗪𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗏, that has destroyed Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been destroyed by corruption. Zimbabwe was never destroyed by sanctions. It was destroyed by corruption. A very good example, let's look at the 𝗁𝗏𝗥. 𝗁𝗏𝗥 must, if you look at the 𝗁𝗏𝗥, everybody knows about the Mazda motor industry scandal here, which was investigated by Sandura, Chief Justice Sandura, in 1988. That scandal saw officials like Frederick Shawa, 𝗭𝗓𝗔𝗕𝗪𝗘𝗪𝗏, Callistus Ndlovu, they used their influence to corruptly benefit whilst the country suffered. And that car scheme, Mugabe was involved, and Mugabe benefited. This is why you see Frederick Shawa had to be pardoned, because he was like doing it on behalf of President Mugabe. So the 𝗁𝗏𝗥 Mazda motor industry scandal is a very good example, which was done by connected people, which was done by powerful people. And in 1988, there were no sanctions. There were no sanctions. When all this was happening, there were no sanctions at all. So if you see someone telling you that sanctions have destroyed Zimbabwe, tell him to hell with you. Tell him to hell with you. Definitely tell him to hell with you. If you look at the name corruption itself, it may exist in one or many different but complex forms, and it can be very difficult to detect. Sometimes corruption can be very difficult to detect, as it can happen at many various levels of administration, especially in our government. A very good example is corruption that is being done by 𝗁𝗏𝗏 in the Zimbabwe prison services today. He's doing it with many varying degrees of acceptance, depending with the nature and the type of institutions that these Zanu PF idiots run. You go to Zinu, you find it. You go to ZPS, you find it. You go to ZRP, you find it. And Yuda, how can we stop this? We really want a change in country. Last time I said to Zimbabweans that, look, atina munhu asina hama dzevanhu vari kukura vari kupinda mupopulation yeZimbabwe. If we mobilize hama dzedu dzese kuti 2023 is your last hope for this generation, why can't we make sure everybody has registered? Make sure your kith and kins are registered to vote, and they know where they are going to put their eggs. Vakomana pakashaka kana wani munhu anovhotera Zanu vanoriga sei? Andini mona. So we need vanhu. Munhu wese ari muZimbabwe wese. It's a country of 16 million people. Maybe 4 million are children. We are 12 million people. Why are you not voting? Why are you not registered to vote? Why can't you express yourself? Why can't you make a dedication to your country? They want us to continue fight for them so that we free them. They don't want to take initiative. And vote for who? Ukavotera Zanu haipere corruption yacho. Let's vote for opposition political party. Ukavotera Monzora, rudzosera Zanu. This is what we are saying. If you vote for Monzora, you are retaining Zanu PF. And Zimbabweans, you are lucky. Because Mwari vakakupai a leader, a natural leader. President Nelson Chamisa is a natural leader. He was quiet for quite some time. Opened his mouth in an address on social media, not on state newspaper. The whole world shook. Zanu PF was shook to the bone marrow. Saka munoda kuzoratidzwa mwe leader anopfura Chamisa. Ndiani mwe leader wamuri kuda anopfura Chamisa? Hapana mwe leader at the moment. Hakuna leader anopfura Chamisa. Atisoda kuruwa imbwa takaviga mpini. Hapana opposition leader at the moment in Zimbabwe anopfura Chamisa. America, chama, regarding kutaurire bururu. A political party cannot survive on isolation. Pawakaona Ian Smith akuruwa neZanu PF ndakakuverengerai. Zanu PF had to go to Russia for ideas. They had to go to China for ideas. Zanu PF was all over the world looking for support. You cannot say good answer, you don't want my ideas. Even very advanced. Ukada kutarisa Americans arutaura nezvavo iwayo ndo vari kupai food aid. Muri kupiwa chikafu chiri kubva kuAmerica. Muri kupiwa rice chiri kubva kuAmerica. Muri kupiwa chibage chiri kubva kuAmerica. And you don't want to go there for ideas. Chibage chiri mukuchirima chakawanda sei. This is surplus that you are feeding your people in America, and the surplus is coming to feed the Zimbabweans. Zimbabwe is not a province of America. But you are benefiting. Idim nanga kwakapiwa 45 million. Yekuchimani mani kwakwarwa nemvura. Makamunzwa idi achitaura tapuwa mari chaiyo. Kwete ma bond notes. Then you don't want America. Makamunzwa idi achindanyorerwa tsamba na Queen Elizabeth and his son Charles. Then you don't want the British. So it doesn't, you don't make sense. You don't make sense. If you say you don't want Americans, you don't make sense. That is a superpower in the world. You can't do without America. You can't do without Britain. You can't do without that. You cannot do without that. You can't do without America. You can't do without Britain. Andona. Munhu anopenga ndianokudza siyana nemaAmericans. Toenda kupi? Because we need to develop our country. MuZimbabwe amuna industry kuti hapana kana innovation yemotikari yamakambogadzira kuti maAmericans ari kuramba kutenga motikari dzedu ngatisiyane navo. Amuna kana phone kana any innovation in our country, nothing. Everything we do comes outside the country. So we need other countries to survive. You need America, you need Britain, you need China, you need Russia for you to survive. We've been with the Chinese for 20 years. But 20 years, we've been with the British from ma 60s. Muarare mamsina sewage yaerera. Apana mnainwa mvura sewage. Come Chinese. Arare Mbare ama sewage arikungoerera. And one. You come to, if you go to China, knows what city. If you come here to UK, you see what I'm telling you. Unfortunately, Biggs, I can't add because if I try to add someone, the volume will go. Like last time we had a problem. The volume will go. So it's very unfortunate. I'll be reading your comments. You can read. You can comment. So Zimbabwe cannot operate in isolation. Zimbabwe, I want to mirror out Ida America because we are beggars. And a beggar must not be a chooser. Zimbabwe hatina chedu. Chedu isusu kuenda kwa America kunokumbira mari. Mabanks atukutaura anorana na America nema superpowers. Atukutaura nezvavo. So we go there kunokwereta. And muZimbabwe mwazimapinda drought chibage chino yambuka gungwa kubva ku Pacific Ocean kubva ku America kuuya kuZimbabwe kuzokufeeda for free. Ndochibage chamuona chakutorwa neZanu vakuenda vachikambenesa kumaruzeva kuti tokupai food aid, tokupai chikafu amufe nenzara. If you ask Zanu PF where are you getting that food, it's being donated by the Americans. Androgona maChina kana kunza rice arikunza plastic rice. The Chinese will bring plastic rice to you and that will kill you. That will kill you. Because atina chedu bigs. The problem is good atina government innovation in their mind. If you look at their budget, when they are budgeting, they don't even put a little bit aside. A little bit aside. And you want them to sell the country to those whites. Already, if you see today, there's a white person being put there. Go to Chilonga today. Villagers who have been there for years and years, for generations, are being moved away by Zanu PF. And that land is being given to a white man. And you saw that guy who was arrested in DRC. That white guy is a business partner. Kuna 𝗖𝗢𝗥 𝗘𝗰𝗪𝗘𝗪𝗘, they were business partners. They are British people, business partners to Robert Mugabe. Probably you have got no idea. Those are not blacks, are British people. So it's like propaganda to say, and if you look at Chinese, those are not blacks, are whites. Belarus, they are not blacks, they are whites. If you go to Russia, they are not blacks, are whites. And Zanu PF goes there for ideas. Goes there to try and to revive the economy. Why is it Zanu PF don't go to South Africa if they want blacks only? Why can't they go to Zambia? Why can't they rely on Mozambique and Botswana? They don't rely on those countries, but they fly to white men's country. If they go to Swiss bank where they bank their money in white men's banks. When they go with their propaganda back to Zimbabwe, to indolent, to lazy people, they start talking about whites are bad, whites are this, whites are that. You saw even 𝗖𝗢𝗥 in Victoria Falls, he addressed Zanu PF people and even offered land to He offered that guy land. Come to Vic Falls. I'll give you land where you develop this. And so it's like people, they don't understand when they call white, they look at the skin, but they don't look at the policies and the ideas that these your leaders in Zanu PF are always running to Belarus, where white people live. Yes, Trump, sorry, I don't like the guy. 𝗖𝗢𝗥 addressed white people in Victoria Falls and offered Trump land. Is Trump a black man? Why didn't 𝗖𝗢 offer land to that Etanon Smith? Why? Tinema singers varumane mari vari kuAmerica kana kuti boxer mpana anonzi ani mpana oyo Floyd. Why didn't 𝗖𝗢 offer Floyd land? He chose Donald Trump. Say, Trump, come, I'll give you land here. Is Donald Trump black? No, he's white. If 𝗖𝗢 goes to Belarus, is he going to talk to a black president? No, he's going to talk to a white president. And he'll go on. So as a result, Zanu PF people, when they talk about whites, I don't know why they talk about British and America only. They think these are the only whites in the world. If you go to China is not a Chinese guy. It's not a black man, it's a white man. And those are whites as well. So to Zanu PF, to brainwash the Zanu PF individuals, when they talk of whites, they talk about America and Britain only. They don't look where this jet travels every time when it picks Emmerson Mnangagwa. Every time this rented jet lands in Zimbabwe, takes Mnangagwa to Russia, takes Mnangagwa to China, takes Mnangagwa to Belarus. Mnangagwa is telling you that he has got buses which came from Belarus. And the buses that you are using in Zimbabwe, they are from a white man's country. They are from a white man's country. But if you look at that white man in Belarus, Belarus is a country that is struggling economically. China is a country that is rising economically. Britain is a country that is struggling at the moment economically. And the Americans are struggling economically. But you guys, you are struggling. You run to struggling countries like Belarus. You bring my buzz. I don't bring kids. And these brainwashed idiots, when they talk of whites, they talk of Britain, they talk of America. They don't talk of whites in Russia, whites in Belarus, whites in China. Chinese are pure white. If you look at their skin, pure white. He offered, yes, this is what I was telling, that 𝗖𝗢𝗥 Mnangagwa himself offered land to Donald Trump. But his stupid supporters don't see Trump as white. They think Trump is black. We've got George Floyd, a boxer. They never, even one day, offered land to that black guy. To say, George Floyd, with your monies, come to Victoria Falls, we sell Victoria Falls to you. It's yours, come and buy it. They never did that. But they're offering land to a white man, white president of America. When Obama was president of America, 𝗖𝗢𝗥 Mnangagwa never offered Obama land here. He's a black man. So this brainwashed Zanu PF people, they think when you talk of white, you talk of America as a country. You talk of Britain as a country, which is no. Hanzi kwedu ukapare kurungwe, Mr. Kenaivura padog yake kuti mombe zedu dzidye up to katene. You understand? A white guy. If you see what whites did in Zimbabwe, you would love it. You'd love it. They made sure that they built centers like 𝗭𝗭𝗭 is an agricultural center where inputs for those on Warukuma Ruzeva who could come and get inputs. Inputs. But some Zanu PF people don't see why. The reason that they don't see why is because they were born and bred under a corrupt regime. So they blame sanctions instead of blaming the corruption that they've seen. If you look at about the bribery issue in our country, so that's what I've been just saying, that if you want a passport at Makombe building, you just go with your money, go behind it, catch someone, you get your passport. But someone with the money to buy that passport goes to Makombe building on daily basis for 6 months without getting that passport. And that form of corruption, bribery, you have seen, it's a common form of corruption that has been practiced in our country. And it has been practiced world over. It is a payment in money and kind that is given or offered to someone to say, look, I need a favor. So you intentionally drive those people to dishonesty. This is why I say sometimes we need to blame ourselves. That Zimbabweans, we have tolerated this culture of corruption. We have driven even the public officials we have driven them to dishonesty through bribery. So you guys don't see it. Don't see that corruption in our country is a major element that has destroyed you and me. Today, we are outside the country. We are crying. Some of us can travel home because we exposed corruption, election rigging, which is fraud, electoral fraud. This is why you see Zanu PF is now putting a law to try and prevent 𝗭𝗵𝗁𝗕𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 from exposing their electoral fraud. Fraud on its own is a form of corruption. The one that I exposed when they were rigging election, that electoral fraud is a form of corruption. Cheating in an election is not allowed. But if you see those Zanu PF people, they were cheating in an election to say, we have won, whilst you know right from the beginning that you are not the rightful rulers of that country. So it is the act of cheating. Someone with intention of getting wealth through illegal means. That was an intention of getting votes through illegal means, cheating, and I exposed it. That is another form of corruption. It involved manipulation of records. It involved manipulation of prison officers to say you cannot vote, otherwise you have to vote Robert Mugabe. To me, that was forgery. People were being forced to vote for Mugabe when they didn't want. 𝗬𝗬, how are you, sweetheart? You see, so that false pretenses to say we have won, whilst you know that Zimbabweans they didn't vote for you. It's a form of corruption. Zanu PF is misrepresenting facts, which is a fraud, which is a form of corruption. I've told you about bribery, people being bribed, which is corruption. If you never knew that bribery is corruption, it's corruption, and it's destroyed Zimbabwe. There is a fraud, electoral fraud, misrepresentation, distortion of election results on its own. It's a fraud. It's corruption that we have seen with our eyes. We have seen that with our eyes. Public officials distorting information about war veterans, compensating on 𝗭𝗫𝗥 who have never been to war, $900,000, which is fraud, which is corruption. The economy cannot stand. The economy cannot stand, varume. Kana makatasa zvakaitwa muZimbabwe panyaya dzeZimbabwe National Liberation War Veterans Association. Pakaflya mari dzakapera munyika. That cannot sustain an economy. And those guys were awarded, when I reward Marufu, those people who never participated in war, they were awarded an allowance of $2,000 or $2,000 a month. Let's say $2,000 a month, which is today is about $80 or so, US, which they were awarded a month after they got 50,000 cash outs. On top of 50,000 cash outs, those guys, they got disability allowances. 96% disability. When I reward Marufoka for 95% disability, and they were paid $3 million for disability. Kunzimaim Juru, 96% disability. Maim Juru amrukona varukubata for sure nasvaya. Can only 90% disability wakatofa. You are as good as dead, you are bedridden, you are out say, porridge. No, 95% disability. Those guys were compensated by 95%. Pamsoro pay $50,000. They got 2,000 every month. They got 96-97% disability, which is translated to about $900,000 for compensation. That there was no sanction when they were sharing or when they were distributing the wealth of a country to the few. And the same people we are talking about, they are the same people who got land. But they still blame a white man. They still blame a white man. They got 50,000. They got 97% disability, which amounted to about $980,000 or $900,000. Every month they got about $2,000. They never invested that money. They squandered that money. And today they say it's sanction. So who did put sanction to Zimbabwe? Who did put sanction on Zimbabwe? Who did put sanction on Zimbabwe? I've spoken to you, ladies and gentlemen. You really understand corruption and sanction now. That if you look at 1997, or people were given 95%, 96% disability. And that disability, they were compensated $980 or $900,000 US dollars per person. And Zimbabwe compensated over 150,000 people, which it claimed participated during the war. 150,000 people, each getting 900,000 US dollars for 95, 96% disability. Then you look at, on top of that, those 150,000 people are getting 2,000 every month. Each, every month is pension. And on top of that, they got 50,000 as compensation. On top of that, they got land, big farms of land. With all those monies, they never bought a tractor. Tractors were acquired by Zanu PF from Brazil. And they were given those tractors for free. Every year, those people, they get seeds for free. They get fertilizers for free. But 20 years down the line, we are still starving. We are still struggling in our country, where all that wealth was squandered on those few people. And the whole country is starving. And someone is telling you it's sanction. That's hogwash. That's stupid. Very stupid indeed. If someone tells you sanctions are destroying Zimbabwe, tell him that you are stupid. You don't really understand what I'm telling you. Very stupid people. Very lazy people. All the monies that I'm talking about here, they were all given to stupid, lazy idiots who have led Zimbabwe into what it is today. Then those stupid idiots, they tell you it's sanction. It's not sanction. It's misgovernance. It's corruption. It's idiocy that got into them. You understand? So I'm looking at those people who participated in the liberation struggle, who got a monthly allowance of $2,000 each, who got $50,000 a lump sum. Give me $50,000 today, or 50,000 pounds today, I'll venture into business. And they never ventured into business. They got 95% disability allowance, which ventures to about 900,000. All in all, those idiots were given about 5 million US dollars each. 150,000 people compensated to receive 5 million US dollars each for 150,000 people. And today, they've done nothing. They are not even farming. And the country is still reeling, is still struggling. Then they tell you those were sanctions. All the monies that they got from World Bank, all the monies that they got from IMF, it find itself into their pockets. Until now, Zimbabwe is struggling. Zimbabwe is suffering. And those same people who mismanaged the funds have got guts to stand before you people of Zimbabwe. And they say, listen, it's sanctioned. And if you say it's not sanctioned, they force their ideas down their throats. To say, agree. If you don't agree, we behead you. If you don't agree, we kill you. People are being killed for refusing to see sense. People are being killed. People are being beheaded in Zimbabwe for refusing to see sense. People are being killed. Those unbudgeted programs, the unbudgeted monies that flew to these war veterans during that time has led to what we are today. Because these people, some of them have never been to war. Mana Ellen Gwarazimba pakapera hondo, she was just 5 years old. And she got 92% disability allowance. She got 50,000 on top. She got $2,000 every month. She was just 5 years old in 1980. Unoshaka said, I participate in muhondo, ari mumabhora baba vake ere. Baba vake pavai mhanya nemabhora awo, vakanga vakamutakura imomo achitaura kuti ndakatakura muwo veteran. It's so pathetic how these idiots have destroyed our country. So the unbudgeted program led to the collapse of our economy. Zanu PF led to the collapse of our economy. Our local currency was severely weakened by the printing of unbudgeted money, which was fraudulently given to. And corruptly received by the same people who cry sanctions today. It was paid to them as gratuity payouts, and they received part of it in cash. And today, the same people cry sanctions. They want to try and corner you to help them cry sanctions. They want to help you. They want you to help them cry sanctions. When they are not sanctions at all, that has destroyed our economy. It's the corruption that led to the printing of money. It's corruption that led to those payouts of gratuity. So they don't deserve your cries. They don't deserve my cries. They must simply solve our economy. They are involved in fraudulent elections, and they say they are the winners. They impose themselves onto you. So why can't they solve our problems? Dana shidumo na masende. I didn't maona, guys. Saka chokwadi cha tochara ana Yuda. No chokwadi cha muona cha chirukurwadza. Hanzi nemwe munhu ma videos andiri kuparidza pasina vanhu. It's very unfortunate that these videos are being shared everywhere, and these videos are finding their way on YouTube. That means once they are put on YouTube, they are seen by every person worldwide. Saka don't worry about 86 people here. Worry about millions who are going to see these videos. And if you relive here, yes, and relive. This Zuro Ndugona t-shirt. Yeah, and I'm live now. I'm live. It's live. And to show that I'm live today. Yesterday I wasn't wearing this beret. I think I pick a cap yesterday. Panemo munari kundifonera anonzikone ngambomira kufona. Because I don't know. My friends should be seeing. My friends on Facebook, and my friends should be seeing that I'm live on Facebook. So I cannot answer you. People should know. And I got kutokuziva pa YouTube. Thank you, Adonai. YouTube. So those people who think the videos are not going anywhere, and Zanu PF is praying for these videos not to go any near their rural folks. It's very unfortunate that even kumaruzeva kwacho ndakaudzwa nemwe munhu anshamwari atichatorari mazuano nana mudhara takuita atakuisa pa TV. I was so glad, I was so happy that the people in the rural areas vatoisa ma videos aya vanoisa pa YouTube, voisa pa TV vachiteerera, hanzi vachidaidzana ma villagers kuti yai munzozvitaurwa nemunhu ari panapa anonzi Yuda. Thanks, courage. You understand? Because we need to preach the truth to the people. The people need to know. People need to know that Zanu PF is coming to them, crying sanctions. They are not sanctions that destroyed our economy. Not sanctions at all. Sanctions did not destroy our currency. Sanctions never weakened our currency. Sanctions never weakened. Our currency was weakened by Zanu PF and corruption. Sanctions were not there. When these people were being given all these payouts, sanctions were not there at all. And everyone, sanctions were not there. Sanctions were not there. It's not sanction that has weakened our currency against an American dollar. Majority of beneficiaries under the scheme were not genuine war veterans, but they fraudulently and corruptly received those gratuity payouts, those idiots. No one ever vari kunetsa vari mukuona vari kunzi ndai munorakasha varashika varashiki. Varashiki vamuri kuona ava vari kunzi ndai munorashikira kupeji raYuda. Ndo vamuri kuona vana nababa vakareceiva mari idzi vasiri war veterans. Andini maona zviri senest vana nababa mbavha ndo vamuri kuona panapa. Vana nababa mbavha ndo vari kuya panapa vachitaura kuti hanzi haisi corruption, sanctions. Ndo vana nababa mbavha. Those people, they were not genuine war veterans. Hazina Elias Chisho yachidhumo ndakazoudza timu rangu mudhara Yuda vanokuudzai zvakaitika noti zvekunyeba. Thank you. Spread the word. This is what, as I can beat me join. As I can't beat them, join. So this is what I'm saying, guys. That they were sent. They were sent to try to distract us. Varashiki, varashiki. Vanababa wao are beneficiaries of this scheme. They are war veterans. They were never genuine war veterans, those people. They fraudulently and corruptly received gratuity payouts, which they don't deserve. They don't deserve it. They left the genuine war veterans who are struggling, nanasi, and these idiots, they've got their children who come here to try and disrupt us. We don't tend to you. It's very unfortunate. We don't give you the attention that you require. If we see that you are annoying, we send you to Blockview. We send you there. Once we discover that is annoying, we just block you. A fake account, we just block you. Because we don't want disruption. Baba wako imbava. Vakapuwa mari yavasinga deserve. And we have to say it out. Vamwe vari kuZambia. Zvakafanana nenhoroondo yaED. ED hafana kuudzwa kuti tuudzwe nhoroondo yaED kuti akazodai akadai. Let him speak for himself. Tine vanhu vaivepo muhondo. Vanhu vobva vataura kuti zvakutaura tave naye kwakati. Takazonzwa vamwe vakutaura kuti ini ndakatora AK ndikariga ndege chopa. You cannot fire. Ndikakutora iwewe once you are kana usina kumbotrainwa kuridza pfuti. Usina kutrainwa aiming and holding. Let's not talk about stripping and assembling. Let's not talk about learning how to fire. But you are in action. You've been given an AK assault rifle. Autombozivi kuti inobatwa sei. Autombozivi kuti trigger yacho inoridzwa sei. Autombozivi kuti ndege yacho kana uchiema unoiema sei. Then you want to tell us film rekuti wakariga chopa. It's trimmer snipers. Vana shepherd trimmer snipers. Taiswera ku range every day sniper. Baba target rare 12 inch rare unoripotsa target rare. Unoripotsa uri pa 100 meters. 12 inch target, you miss it. Uri pa 50 meters, you miss it. ndikakupa 10 rounds kuti rova 12 inch target uri pa 50 meters tikanoverenga toona une ma00 masoja airova ma0 tichiseka uko bvunza ndakazombunza vamwe vafana vekomando ndakazobvunza vamwe vafana vekomando ndikati mafana ndakatanga rati regai ndikudisplay ndikuratidzei ndobva ndatsotsonya kuita nhunzi anoziva akatrena pfuti nhunzi anodziziva mbavha vakatrena pfuti ndikataura nhunzi munhu akaridza pfuti esnipe anokudzwa chinonzi nhunzi chii andiwanzwa ndakarova nhunzi musi iwoyo ndapedza kurova nhunzi ndikati kumakomando vafana vaipo ndikati go and check handisi kuuya ikoko at 50 meters vakaenda vakanotarisa vakadzoka zvikanza mudhara murutsvage kuprison ndakabvunzwa nemakomando vafana vekomando mudhara motsvagei kuprison ngati kuprison ndoisikade vana mapfura nhunzi here zvikanzi mudhara hamuite zvikanzi handei pa 100 meters tione ndobva ndaenda pa 100 meters ndobva ndavadisplayera vakaenda vakanotarisa vakadzoka zvikanzi sarenda mudhara hapfuti mobata tikaenda pa 300 meters ndikanovarovera. They were so shocked. Unoziva kuti vafana vekomando vakarwa nehana zvikanzi mudhara mutsvagei kuprison yonoti prison officer zvachose zvezvi uri muuto akakwana because mauto ari panapa vari kuripotsa 12 inch handinoona ndikazodza mumwe mupana so vandakapesera nazo mupana ndakurwa mbama mupana aenda kamutaura ndikapasaka ndikakupa pistol ndikati ndikafamba apa ndipfure you miss me ndichizvifambira hangu nokuti pistol iyi ndipfure haundipfuri kaiwewe kana uchipotsa 12 inch target riri apa kuzoti inini haundipfuri kamupana andinoona saka ndiri kutaura vana mbavha kune vamwe veterans andakaitisa retraining ndakazobvunza ndakazoposa ndarova rimwe ndabhoyekana manje riri kusimuka nepfuti raridza harina kusava pfuti pasefi rakusimuka rakanongedza pfuti kana uda kuuraya vanhu bvorani wakaenda kuhondo iyoyo mairidza sei kuhondo maimhanya sei kuhondo so you find out vamwe vanhu vainzi vaiuraya nemabhunu zvaiurayana zvivanhu izvi nenyaya yekusaziva pfuti. You understand? Because mafake war veterans vamwe totovaziva vamwe takashanda navo kuprison mafake war veterans baba wainzi wakamubvunza kuti zita rako wainzani kuhondo waifanira kuseka wakaopareta kupi mbana wada kuziva zvisizvo iwe aiwa tiudzeka handiri wakaenda kuhondo wakatrenwa kupi instructor wako aivani wobvapo wakaenda kunopareta uri kupi aive komanda wako ndiani handingatadzi kuziva zvinhu zvakapusa kudaro its basic information but navanhu vakaiti vakaenda kuhondo they don't even know kuti kwakatrenwa ndekupa hazivi kwawakaopareta muzimbabwe kuhondo ndekupa hazivi hondo yakamborwawo kana one day kunzi waita contact nemabhunu ndepapi haana kana hondo yaanoziva handiri maona. So most of those were not genuine war veterans, the people who fraudulently received those payouts. 150 plus people were compensated. Vamwe vacho ana mai mjuru vakapuwa 96%. Mai mjuru haana kuenda kuhondo. Izvozvo I rest assure you she's never been to war, that woman. Vakaenda hanzi vakarausikira musi wacho wakutaura kuti ndakariga ndege nechopa neak hanzi comrade haana naendesera sadza anga apfurwa afa nobva natora ak yake nobva narova chopa hanzi amai mjuru natora ak yava nobva narova nechopa ikadona aluiti 3 baba kurova ne39.5 ichi 39 millimeter yai kakabara kakadai soke ak kaika kakarova aluiti 3 ikadona iko kaya kabara adon zvinoudzwa macivilians izvozvozvo unoudza mucivilian asikazive bara repfuti kuti ak inoshandisa bara rakaita sei live iri kubata pazimwere iri kubata taku iri kubata most of the people here in Zimbabwe and some people in Zimbabwe they are sharing. So I'm talking about someone who went to war, who had no idea how to hold a firearm, just got an AK assault rifle, aimed at a helicopter, fired at a helicopter, and gunned down the helicopter. Someone without training, who has never known an AK. You just saw an AK per boyfriend. She downed a chopper, a helicopter. You understand? So those fictions, we've had enough of them. And most of these people are not genuine war veterans, to be honest with you. They are not genuine war veterans. They fraudulently got that money, they corruptly got that money. Those gratuity payouts, vamavanga vari muhouse girl ngoto yapera vakangonzwa kuti chabhondoka kwaita mari vakamhanya unotsvaga mari, but havasi mawar veterans. Musanyeperwe varume, musanyeperwe. Ndakatomboita come across list revanhu ndopandaiziva manickname avaizvipa kuhondo. Tumwe ainzi faka blaster baka what ndikati masai kunyepa. Vanhu vakaenda kuhondo masaa vaipiwa vandana mumabhunu muchapera. Vanateurai kwete nhongo vanati nhongo ava pamwe nehondo nekutoridzirana nebhunu kana one day hatitozivi. This is what exactly destroyed our country, Elias. This is exactly what I'm saying. That it destroyed our country. These people you see now who say they are not there. These are bogus war veterans. They are the people who benefited from these payouts that weakened our country. They corruptly received the monies that were not meant for them. The results were this, what we have today. Sewage flowing all over Harare. People starving to death in our country. No jobs, no companies, no jobs, nothing at all. And the country is run dry of its currency. The country has got no currency. RTGs, ask that person, what is RTGs? These are just printed papers that you use to go and say, boss ku reserve bank waifanirwa kuve kuneka gold kari equivalent to this, please can I have bread? Go and claim that gold randakupa ku reserve bank. This is the issue of currency. Ana hunji azakazoenda doctor ku Poland ukazwa nyaya dzacho ukazwa history yacho unoseka. It's all distorted. This is why you see war veterans are not allowed to write my books. Opamuchikora ndakanyora bhuku ndikana Mugabe Futsek, bring that book no. Anza akabharura ati akathrow. Kana ndikurinzwa bhuku rako. Not even one munhu akaenda kuhondo ari kunyora bhuku ratiri kunzwa zvine musoro. I agree with Michael here. Ukada kunzwa the true account of how hondo yakarwa sei, bvunza mazipra forces. Zipra forces inokutaurira hondo. Those people who operated under Zipra, they tell you the war. Azwana munhu achitovhotera Zanu. Kwakaoma Zanu haivhoterwe. They corruptly do it. So these people, they benefited because they were highly connected with the powerful people in government. The state was aware of these baseless claims, and investigations were never done. So this was fraud that destroyed our country. This was corruption that destroyed our country. Zanu PF knew, Zimbabwe knew that these are fraudulent claims. They never benefited. Why did I go to prison? Why could I rank? Hey, Kampanaga, come on, veteran. What is kupi? Anilo, what is kupi? Abanga achiremerwa nerengi dzisiri dzezera rake dzakapuwa corruptly dzichimbavha. As I dropped the history lesson, I am marara definitely. Ini ndakazodropa shona kuchikora. Ameno ini ndakadropa shona. History ndakaidropa kudhara ndiri form 2. But ndaiverengeswa zvana chikuyo chisamarengu, hanzi nyatsimba mutota, mzilikazi akazoita sei, ndakazvifunga ndakagara ngati do. Where do I go with all this? Nyatsimba mutota. Chikuyo chisamarengu. Changamire dombo. Taizverenga maform 2. Pandakati form 3 ndikati heo handikuzviona izvi. Adona. Tisha wangu mwaenzi gasha ndiyakazota ndivenge shona man. Anditi mona. Because Zimbabwe history is distorted. The history of Zimbabwe is not the true account of what Zimbabwe is. And I just want to ask you, what are you saying? How is this helping Zimbabwe? This is helping Zimbabwe so that people know that it's not sanction that destroyed our country. It's corruption that destroyed our country. So if people are voting, or if you want to make a decision to elect a government, you must not elect anyone from Zanu PF. If you are electing a member of parliament, you must not elect anyone from Zanu PF. This is how people benefit. Because the good life will come back. Upenyu wakanaka uchadzoka. Kana Zanu PF elements are eliminated from the political scene. So this is what we expect Zimbabweans to benefit out of that. What I'm telling you, vana vakazvarwa 1980 havazvizive kuti there was 𝗭𝗵𝗶𝗽𝗃 scandal. Corruption yakabva kupi? Mwana akazvarwa 2000 ane 20 years now doesn't know this. So if I teach these youngsters to understand that what they are being told is just but propaganda, which should not be taken into consideration. The real people who destroyed Zimbabwe are still there, and they destroyed it with corruption. And this is the corruption. And those people who did corruption are still there. They are still in government. And the youngsters must know. So this will benefit the youngsters to say when they are choosing someone who must represent their lives, must not choose a corrupt person from Zanu PF. A person akapuwa mari yekuba kunziwe utakupa 2000 pamwedzi. Some of them are still earning that money. And imari dzekuti kana pachitwa change of government, there must be proper investigation. There must be proper lists of people who participated in war. And those people must be compensated. And those who got compensation, which they don't awarand, 𝗭𝗵𝗶𝗽𝗃𝗪𝗃. You go and do your time. Kuchipurukuru wakanaka. Kuti wakadya kudhara mari yako. So what's next? Chasara kushanda. So magistrate will just send you to go and work. People don't understand the purpose of prison. Can you explain about Mugabe life? Not today, Taku. So what I'm saying is, the purpose of prison is to make you work. What the state must do? Ukabai wewe. State must take you to go and work and compensate munhu wakabira. So people must know the purpose of prison is to make you work for the state. Because unenge wakadya kudhara yako. Wakaba pacho wakanda watenga boots dzako ukapfeka. Dzausina kushandira. Saka prison will make you work. And the state must compensate abirwa. That is the purpose of prison. So the purpose of this is to make people aware. Could aiwa idzimba advise. Ukono uchiti idife uri connected unesha uri kuda kuba. So that is what we are here for. If you don't see any purpose, then back off. Sorry guys, not everyone in UK is an asylum seeker. I just want to ask you what the problem with the Zimbabweans, those who are outside Zimbabwe, or some of them who are in the UK. The people you see in UK are not all asylum seekers. I am an asylum seeker who was granted refugee status. So I live in this country as a refugee. But there are other Zimbabweans who came from Zimbabwe, who got jobs whilst they were in Zimbabwe, who came to UK, varimuno, and who came to this country who are not asylum seekers. Varikushanda ma-accountants, ma-chartered accountants, ma-nurse. UK is recruiting nurses from Zimbabwe. So don't put all those people in brackets, in the same bracket with I am asylum seekers. I will show you asylum seekers who have done wonders in this country. I will show you asylum seekers who have done really wonders. Vamwacho vama engineer, ma railway ari kushanda ma asylum seekers, vatove mainjiniya vane madigiri anotyisa. Madoctors atinawo munomu who were refugees. Aditi maona. So as Mkoma Yuda, I want you one-on-one on another day. Aditi maona. Saka what we are saying is vana vembavha vakatumwa kunorakasha vaivai. Saka vanorwadziwa kana ndakuvataura kuti their fathers don't deserve the payouts they received. Their fathers don't deserve the ranks they received. Their fathers don't deserve the land they received. Vana baba vavo dzingoriwo mbavha nehondo hakuna kwakaendwa. It's a very good example if you look at Ellen Gwara-Dzimba. Kana ane vana vari kudya ngavazive kuti mai vavo pakapera hondo, she was just 5 years. Kana hakuna kana more veteran airepa mwana ane 5 years during that time. And my brother was a soldier, but pakazouya newspaper emabond, my father said to my brother, siya basa uende South Africa, vakabva vawana mari yekuroora. Ndo chokwadi. Takashanda 13.5 years, chibata newspaper 1.something billion a month. You can hardly buy 2 liters of cooking oil. So it's so interesting to know. And the if you look at Zimbabwe United Passenger Company, Zupco chaipa 2006, when board Zupco board chairman ainzi 𝗖𝗍𝗕𝗪𝗓, chief executive was Zupco ainzi Brighton Matonga. Mbana akadzidza kunoka Brighton Matonga. He was in this country as a student in this country. Brighton Matonga. These guys were fraudulently involved in purchase of passenger buses. Company gift investments. It was earmarked to service urban routes. Corruption yakapinda kuZupco. Brighton Matonga akaba mari yeZupco. Mndara 𝗖𝗍𝗕𝗪𝗓 akaba mari yeZupco. Money exchanged hands between Indian ainzi Jayesh Shah. Do you still recall the issue of Zupco Rogumanem? Kaninde Gandruiziwa. Panam Asian Jainzi Jayesh Shah gift investments and the Zupco executive in order for the transaction to take place through the buses, though the buses were not suitable for the required operation. Kwakatengwa zvimwe zvimabazi mafao. Muchuru zainzi mafao. Bazi raiti rikarowa kuba 2006 kwakatengwa mabhazi ainzi mafao FAWL. Raiti rikarowa hambu so raibva ranyora kuti no road, robva ratomira ratofa. Zvimabhazi zvaisaplewa nemwe muAsian ainzi Shah. Vanga kuZimbabwe ma 2005 2006. Munoziva mabhazi andiri kutaura iwayo. Akada kuti semabhazi ari kuno kuUK, but ekuZimbabwe ainzi mafao buses. Raiti rikarowa kana hambu boom, robva ratomira raine chinjini kumashure, rairira zvine noise so chobva chatomira paipa. Kuenda padashboard pachotonyora kuti no road. Achichatodhiraivhiki chatoloka, vanhu motonzi burukai mumirire rimwe bhazi riri kuuya. I think people still remember buses dzakatengwa naBrighton Matonga. Muchirukuru nyaya yakatomboenda kumacourts and so forth, zvekubhadharana zvinenge zvakazvanetsa. Saka fraud in our country, bribery in our country, embezzlement, yekushandisa mari yehurumende isiri yako, that has destroyed our country. As I had left, hapana raive muZimbabwe pakatengwa zvimabhazi zvainzi zvimafao. Prison ikatenga engine ikaisa pabhodhi yedhama yefao, vakatenga engine yefao vakaisa pabhodhi yedhama. I don't think they are still working now. Zvakaoma zveZimbabwe hatidzokere zvekumhanya pakaipa. As I know those buses namoyo ainzi mafao buses. Ndakamakwira inini eZupco anga akapendwa blue aya. Prison yakatenga maengine acho vakaisa pamabhodhi emadhama. I don't think they are still working. Because rimwe racho rakazorima munda wejeri raramba kumira, ridhiraivhwa nemwe mupana ainzi Java. Kapinda mumunda wejeri akanorima naro richiinda. Kuzomuti Java chii zvikazi blazi charamba kumira chibhazi ichi. No breaks, nothing. Atavekwa munyepe mukoma. Makazviona zvimafoul buses. That was corruption which brought those buses. Akaunzwa na Brighton Matonga nemudhara ainzi Nherera. Those are thieves. That's the problem. Some people think all asylum seeker vanorwara. There is nothing wrong to be an asylum seeker. Dai vaiziva ma-benefits ema-refugees kana newautaure kana. Refugee! Ndakadai ndakangoramba ndiri refugee. Because pandakauya inini, I think ndaipuwa 400 to 500 pounds a week. Ndakagara kumba. Ndisikaende kubasa, ndakarara, nemuka ndakarara, gasi richiterwa, rent ichiterwa, mvura ichiterwa, magetsi achitererwa. Ndakarara, ndongoenda kupost office kupera kwesvondo ndopuwa 500 pounds a week. A week. As a refugee, kana asylum seeker achipuwa 2,000 pounds a month. Haisi mari yekutamba nayo kayo. Kuna vari kuenda kubasa vasiri kuibata iyo. So you don't know the benefits of a refugee or an asylum seeker. Those buses. Kusina kana one. Ainzi mafoul buses. Ma 2006 atengwa na Brighton Matonga. Nechimwe chimudhara chonzi Nherera cheche. Ainzi mafoul buses. Right, zikarowa hambu so boom. Robva ratomira kuti no road. Watu uchienda kuchikurubhi kweko waishotewa zvisingaiti. Waizwa kurwadza. Apa munenge waswera uri kubasa. Foul yarowa bambu hambu boom. Robva yamira kuti no road. Kwakunzi mirirai rimwe foul. Airongerana Mutare road yaye. Airongerana mafoul meme akafa ukabva panapo kasvika unoona rimwe apo rakafa. Kabvapo kaenda kunoona rimwe rakafa. Panosvika kuchikurubhi unogona kuona 10 akafa. Akanzi chikurubhi. Mafoul buses. That is corruption. Yatiri kutaura nezvayo. Haisi sanction yakataura kuti vatenge mabhazi anonzi ma4. That's corruption. Andimona. So you find out that all these people we are talking about, they've stolen money or they've misused a man or a property that is under one's custody. They are given money. They misuse it. Andimona. Tine nyaya dzakawanda dzimwe dzekuprison ka hatichada kutaura zvedu. Kwakayamwe musoja ainzi Mike Anonge. Kana newaitoona kuti neaccounts dzacho hadzizikanwe pano. Yangu yakuzongorova mari yejere chete. Jeri kusara risina kana mari. Donald Trump with the anger exposed all the secrets about coronavirus. All right. I'll read about Trump later on. I didn't want. So you find that there was rampant embezzlement of state funds in the government departments. I've given you a very good example. Yambuya vainzi Kanonge. Mbuya vaiba moto. Murume wanga arikenewo. Ku army. Iyo wakabva ku army. Wakaya ku prison. Kwaitange ku prison kusina ma-accountants baba. Kwaione zvafana zvazvakarova ma-CIS, zvimwe zvazvakarova ma-chartered. Hainzi CIS yana chartered accountants, zvimwe zvazvakarova vana aka. Taive nawo ku prison. Vafana vakanga vakadzidza ma-aka. Ma-accountants. But vese, they were not given a position yekurana mari ye-prison. Kwakatanga kubiwa zvakaipa. Nana mbuya Kanonge. Apa chaizikanwa na accounts acho hapana kana. You understand what I mean? So, you find out that stealing was an act of taking something that doesn't... Stealing on its own is an act of taking something that doesn't belong to you. And Zimbabwe has been destroyed by these people I'm talking about, who stole from all these government departments. They embezzled monies meant to feed the prisoners. They embezzled monies meant to clothe the prisoners and clothe the prison officers. As a result, waitokaenda kujeri, waiona mabandita achinwa kapu yeporridge ka1. Pasvondo mabandita ainwa 3 makapu yeporridge, ndo chachiri chikafu chavo. And a lot of prisoners died because of embezzlement of state funds. Zai, unozati Zai raitengwa during that time, Zai Road wairitenga about 50 bond. Anga bond anga ma anga ainzishikwa chazima mazirabishi ataishandisa anga ma bond notes. Andido wagona kutenga 50 bond. But ku prison waiti kana munhu akari holder 50 oenda naro unoritengesa 2,000 bonds ku prison. Saka you see, people were just milking the service kusvika yapera. kusvika yapera mari yaipera. Ozati government yaikupai budget inoenderana nekuti muri vangani, mabhanditi anodya zvakawanda sei, maprison officers vanoda kupfeka vanopfeka zvingani pagore, government yokubudgetira yekupai mari, paisara 2-3 months hakusina mari kuprison. Ukavabvunza hatisina mari, fuel chacho hakusina yekutakura vasungwa kuenda kumakotsi. People used to embezzle the money. Taipesera magajeri takuta mudeme ukunganza mari yefuel kuti vana vaende kuchikoro nemota yeprison. Ndo motikari yaibva yanzimba mari yedu isusu yataiunganidza maprisoners ngaatakurwa aende kukoti. So we end up isusu maprison officers takucontributa mari dzekuti maprisoners atakurwa aende kukoti. Mabearer notes thanks 𝗭𝗓𝗦𝗕𝗪𝗏 ainzi mabearer notes atata akushandisa. So you find out kuti vana mbavha kana vakuya vachinyora pama social media, they try to portray vana baba vavo like Jesus. Vana baba vavo dzadziri mbavha. Takaona zvakawanda isusu. Ukaenda kuKondhozi farm kumaNikaland, there was spared, Kondhozi farm was spared as a for political allies province yekumaNikaland. Yanga iri land ye-government. Ukaenda paKondhozi farm, these madhara mbavais, they looted all my farm implements ese paKondhozi paya. Apana chakasara. So they stripped that farm of its assets. Vakatora everything. Kondhozi vaenda ipapo aba, all these political heavyweights, they scrambled there to go and strip all the equipment that was bought by government at that Kondhozi farm. My presidential input scheme and command agriculture yamakona recently are among other programs of the state. And they are among other programs that channeled resources corruptly to other people, and they abused these programs. They were just programs that were formed to abuse state funds, to embezzle state funds. Up to now, from the command agriculture, what did Zimbabwe benefit? Nothing. The same happened to 𝗏𝗏𝗏, National Oil Company of Zimbabwe, during Enos Chikore. Apana sikazive zvakaitika pana Chikore, vanhu vachiti masitama esa zidhara 𝗭𝗏𝗏 unana 2008 kwese kushidzika 𝗏𝗏𝗏 kwairwa diesel. Fuel products, fuel chaicha muZimbabwe yakatanga kushayika. Diesel rakashayika, petrol yaishayika. Waika wachidrive motikari, so uchifamba nemotikari, waitotarisa geji yako utaona pana pa fuel yangu yakupera. Hakuna kwa waiwendo kana pa filling station hapana fuel. Wakapaka pa filling station wana ufana waibuda mumasango nezvigubhu. Ukafamba neChirundu Road kana pana kambofamba neChirundu Road yayo. Waiona zvigubhu zvichibuda musango, unobvunza kuti filling station iri papi pa hapana filling station. But paibuda zvigubhu musango 20 liters. Ndaramuda 20 liters diesel waitotenga una option. Taidira motikari dzedu fuel dzemusango. Andiri mukona nyaya yatiri. So these political heavyweights, not sanction, they have destroyed Zimbabwe. Ukatasa nyaya 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 kuti munyika makasvika kushayika diesel, there was no petrol, lubricants vamusina, mafarmers havana chavakabenefita paya. And it's not, that is not sanction, that is corruption. Hanzi rakazotorwa naChris Musho pakaipakani. Apana chakasara, vana mbavha kana vakutumwa kuya kuzorashika, vachirashikira pamaaccounts ana 𝗭𝗵𝗁𝗕𝗪𝗏. They want to teach us about sanction. We know everything about sanction. Targeted sanctions were imposed takutove madhara tatokura. And achiimposwa taivatsura. Kuti zvamuri kuita zvinounza masanctions. Musaponda vanhu. Don't behead people. Because you will be put on sanctions. Kana mrida land yenyu unoenda nepfuti unopwanya imba muchipwanya madhomu muchipfura vanhu pamaprazi. Ndokutora kweland yacho. Andimona. Above all, these idiots are extortionists. Andimona. Ukada kutarisa ngatibotarisai anzi kumbira ikanga akarowa mari yese jembe akarowa yese mari aitengesa chibage kumbira ikanga matura anga azera na 10. every day marora aiwe achituta chibage achienda kuZambia, DRC kupi achitengesa chibage kusvika Zimbabwe yasara iri dry, haina chainacho izvozvo. No food reserve. Matura Airlines denies hanzi akazara SII, the whole country will be fed for 10 years. Kana mukakata drought, kana mukasarima, kana mukasara sei for 10 years kuti azove empty. 𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗏 den chete, you can eat for 10 years. Matura. But is what hey, kwakaita drought, hey, vanofane nzara chibage chakubva kuAmerica. When they come to write on my wall, they talk about whites being bad white people. Now we are hungry in our country. You go to America where white people are to look for maize. They bring it for free for you to eat. Then your papas with their corrupt mind, they tell you go kunorashika and I'm norakasha. Hey, my wife, hey, you want to take the country back to the whites? Hey, you are eating white people's food. But GMO are kubva kuAmerica maita hey, you don't eat my GMO mZimbabwe ngati adzikama imurana ani kwemi. You are not even scientific in your reasoning. There is no science in your reasoning. But unutaura kuti haudye GMO. Enge zviri kushuzha nenzara rusunga dumbu nebhande. Chibage chiri kubva kuAmerica chiri kuya kuZimbabwe GMO. Uri kuchigaya uchidya. But kana makwenda paZTV, hey, ati maGMO, hey, maGMO, ndikati stupid people. Stupid people. We portray ourselves as we pretend to be stupid. Let's not pretend to be stupid. Let's never pretend to be stupid. Chibage chiri kubva kuAmerica chiri kuya kuzodya, chamuri kudya. Rice riri kubva kuChina ramuri kudya. Matura enyu ari empty. Unotuma kuya kuzonyora rabishi kunorakasha. Zandonzwa tsitsi. Zvondirwadza. Tsitsi dzandinonzwa ndezvekutaura ukakona kuchinyora kundizviverenge, ndinonzwa mwoyo wangu kurwadza kuti hausi kuziva zvauri kuita. Nekuti GMO racho riri kurova. Chibage chiri kubva hachisi kubva kuKenya ka. Hachisi kubva kuCongo kana kuMozambique chibage. Chiri kuyambuka gungwa Pacific Ocean kuya kuzokufeeda iwe kuti upinde mutoilet. These are American people feeding you. The British people feeding you. Then you go and say whites are bad. You wear a hat, propaganda hat, yababa wako vasina msoro. Vakapuwa $900,000 and they failed to do kana one business rekutengesa kana mabands kana masweet chaiyo to generate income. Vaisikora vachikwira dzindege vanakaitano vachienda kuna Mozambique Beira vachinobva kudya nana mbuya nhingi muBeira vachidya mari. Vairara mahotera anodhura. Havasina chavanacho zvinezvi. Vaboyi ngenyoka garwe rakashamira nhunzi. Boy. Hausina kana chaunacho. $900,000 haisi mari yekutamba nayo. Andiri maona. So implementation of this process. Ukada kuitarisa how Zanu PF did everything. It was like extortion. Ministers and more than ministers chacho mZimbabwe. They've got more than 3 farms. Ngatase family kwa Mugabe. Kuti vane mapurazi vangana. Nemwana wabhona iwe mudumbu akapuwa purazi. You understand? Ukatasa, let's highlight vana 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏. Some people were saying he's the richest man in Zimbabwe. Ngatasana Ignatius Chombo. Chombo owns all my industrial sites esari muHarare. Chombo. Watasa Kembo Mohadi ukaenda kuBeitbridge. It's the godfather. No, Kembo ana Kembo Mohadi ndo maningirikini anonzi ma land barons ekuBeitbridge. Akabata, they acquired more than 1, 2, 3 farms. Apana ni 1 farm pa. There's some farms 2, 3, 4 farms. Andimona. Achatauri nyaya Mugabe. Kudani mapurazi mangani. Vabvapo vakabva vanzi nemari dzatakakupai mawo veterans dzese. Vachifamba nechidhara chinonzi chinotimba chisingagese chetsvina chachi. Zvikanzendai mumacompanies anga asara which were operating. Demand 51% ownership. varungu vakazopesera company owners vakati, why should we suffer, guys? There is South Africa, we can go invest our money. Botswana, Mozambique, good places to invest our money. Zambia, ukaenda kuZambia unoida. So 51% share yavai demanda here, extortion. That was extortion. And yakabva yangosila our fate. Companies closed, unemployment rose. That is not sanction. If you look at 51% worth of shares being demanded by Zanu PF youth, that is no sanction at all. We've got a problem with the Zanu. This is why I'm highlighting this. That the foreign-owned companies had to cede 51% into the hands of a black Zimbabwean, a black Zanu PF activist. Just think of my companies, 𝗭𝗓𝗥 and Roberts. It was renamed as Masimba Holding. Masimba wacho ndiani after it is acquired by a local person. Apana sikaziye Murray and Roberts pana. Ndo yakunzi Masimba Holdings. 51% share, boom, kuna Masimba. Haana kana sendra isa ipapo. Hans 𝗭𝗓𝗥 looted almost 3/4 of the industrial sites in Bulawayo. Yes. Then those 𝗭𝗓𝗥, the likes of Mpofu, National Masamba Vice, they are telling you now that is sanction that destroyed this country. This is Changirai. Hey, BT. Hey, Nelson Chamisa. Why do you lie to the people? Because these Zimbabweans are not well informed. And you want to lie to Zimbabweans to say it's sanction. Sanction to go and take 51% share of Murray and Roberts. And the company closed. The company closed. Most senior government officials, Makadasana Sevias Kasukwere, Apana Patrick Joao, and others took advantage of that and hijacked the program to bulldoze their way into buying shares. My shares are where are the companies? And they bought those shares at a very low prices. And some at a zero cost. They just took farms, they took companies. Arisi sanction varume. Don't be fooled by these people. Don't be fooled by this. As counting the change from $1 after buying bread, unochema. This is not a sanction at all. Don't be fooled by these people. They got shares for free. Don't be fooled by these people. This is what caused Zimbabwe to where it is today. Anzi, I found your message today, you nemfundisi chiwenga muripa duze nechokwadi. Thanks concern. Chokwadi ndo chatotaura. Atidi vanhu varwadziwe. Toda kuudza vanhu chokwadi so that when you make decisions knowing that you can't continue to vote people who destroyed industry, who destroyed Zimbabwe. If you see yourself putting an X on Zanu PF, that means you are a mental patient. You need a mental examination. Unoda kutariswa pfungwa dzako kuti dzichakanaka here, uchiri kurizina zvakanaka, uri kufunga here, are you reasoning? Anyone putting an X on Zanu PF must be mentally examined. Because definitely I'm talking about people who acquired 51% share for free. They never even put any cent. Kunoshka ndio wa shareholder we company ino. Kana musikaziye zvema shares zvofamba sencha zokutaurira rimwe zuva. And some shares were got at a lower price. And some were got at zero cost. That means some people just mwakangobuda mumunda achenda atove owner of a company. Panoitwa my final accounts paper and to allocate ones, he has to be given so much money. After mapiwa war compensation, mapuwa 50,000, urupuwa 2,000 every month, pamsoro wane company. That means Mugabe transferred ownership of Zimbabwe to these war veterans. up to now, the country is suffering, the country is struggling. And someone out around, that is sanction. Ah, you daramba. Ah, you daramba. Mose, changamuka. Tiri kutongwa nembava, changamuka. Inini yuda ndakaramba. Zve kutongwa nembava, ndakaramba. Mose, changamuka iwo. Muri kutongwa nembava, changamuka. VeZimbabwe, changamuka. Muri kutongwa nembava, changamuka. Inini yuda ndakaramba. Zve kutongwa nembava. Ndakaramba, guys, ndikati anditongwe nembava. Ndakaramba. Because mbavha chandurukudza chese ndakachiona nemaso angu aya. Chinotimba chitakura mawo veterans vachiimba macompanies every day. Taine company kuHarare Essence of Boss Show yakavharwa. Vasvika vachiimba ipo every day. Chinotimba aida bot. Aida bot chinotimba bot reta mari. Hanzi zvopera here mudhara. Zvinopera msekiwa. Zvinopera. Hapana chisingapere. This is why I'm saying if you see anyone now ari kuti pfe achivhotera Zanu, mutaura kuti you need mental examination. You need mental examination. Inini Yudha ndakaramba inini. Ndakaramba kujamuka zvachose kuti andivhotere mbavha. Mbavha haina tsitsi, ndo chokwadi mukoma courage. Mbavha haina tsitsi. Ukada kuona zvikuita Zanu PF is full of thieves, full of murderers. Havana kana tsitsi with the people of Zimbabwe. They've no shame. Ini ndakajamuka. Ndakaramba. Vandozviziva iri rakaramba. Vakambotuka bwidi, vakasunga, vakarova zvavanoda, vakapwanya, vakaita sei, pandakaramba. Ndakaramba. Ndiso vanhu vako, ndiso vanhu takabvurwa zvodai takateerera marwadzo enyama. Tiri kuchita tichitomhanya, ndiso kadai tichimhanya chiri pfe. Hapana panapa 100 panapa. Hapana akarohwa marohirwo andakaita panapa. Andimaona. Hapana munhu akambovharirwa mavharirwo andakaita panapa. Uchitsikwa, unotsikwa mabhora uchigomera, uchibudapo uchitaura Zanu PF andikuiona. Andiri muunza nyaya tikutaura. Ndutaura, I'm talking to over 100 people here. So I'm saying to all these people around here that none of you went through what I went through. Arrested, torture, this and that. Tsikwa mabhora. Wakambotsikwa mabhora. Kana uri munhu wechirume, you know what I mean. Mabhora. Dzvanywa bhora unzitsva bhora. Ndakaramba inini. I refused. Vakaenda kuita election rigging, I exposed them. I refused. Ndakaramba zvekutongwa nembavha. Ndakati kwete. Ndikati sara emutongwa nembavha. Andirimaona. So what I'm saying is that is not that's not the sanction that has destroyed Zimbabwe. As Dara don't say that vamwe takabviswa ruoko. I'm so sorry Annie for that. Even I lost my hearing, I lost my teeth. Vachirova madiro, trizvirema. I've got a broken clavicle. Ndakarwa nebattery FN. Watasama futi zonzi ma FN zeze kuseri kwacho kune ka plate kakaiswa kanenge aluminium karata so. Wainzo achirova so. Pane pamboti unorwa kusanzwa pain. Asi unonzwa kuti ndikujijwa panapa. Andinoona. Moforo. Hatisatauri zvakawanda. Tikutaura. I don't want to venture into that. It's a painful experience. That I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about it. But ndikutaura ndikati, imimi muri kuda allow mbavha. Why can't you sacrifice to say no? Kana ndikarohwa ndikapinda muballot paper, I'm not going to put my X on Zanu PF. Rovai. Vairova vakaita sei 2005 vakati hey, haufani kuvhota ndikabviswa pa voters roll. Ndichinziwa Malawian. Andimona. Saka Rambao sa shepherd Yudha. Rambao sa shepherd Yudha. Ramba kutojamuka kuti azviti andidi. Anditongwe nembavha. Indakaramba. Be like me, guys. Apana chinhu chinombonetsa kuramba kuti usida kutongwa nembavha. Ratidza mira pawakamira. Handisi tsanga inenge usaita sana obet gutu. Kungoza mudumbudu gururu nenzara. Indaifa nenzara ini. Ndairambiswa kutenga chibage chaitengwa nemamagadheri chinzi uchazotenga kana tsvangira yakutonga. Ndainyimwa rengi dzekupfeka chinzi uchazopromotwa kana tsvangira yakutonga. Rengi dzaipiwa vanhu vandakatrena nevamwe vana vaitonyasana hagone kunyora zita rake. Taive nemumwe mudhara kuchikurubhu kainzi vafunga mumwe mudhara wadana naye kuchikurubhu wandakaita naye kutraining. Aiti kana wakunyora takunyora matest aitogara achidongorera chikopa. Anditi maona. Saka tiri kutaura zvatakaona. The problem with the Zimbabwe people, we've accepted abuse for too long. And Albert Einstein said, if you continue to watch evil things happening without taking action, you are the person who is destroying your country. Abuse of power is the improper use of authority by someone who holds public office. We have not seen that. They give themselves benefits that are beyond their positions. Common in government institutions, especially in Zimbabwe. A good example, if you go to the National Railways as administration, kuzinara. Yainzi Zimbabwe National Road Administration, yezinara yai. There were former chief executive of Zinara, whose name was Frank Chitukutuku. He abused the company resources by awarding himself left employment benefits at the expense of motoring public. The same with the public service medical aid that you know about Pismas. Chief Executive Office of Pismas was 𝗭𝗵𝗄𝗕𝗪𝗏. And his executive management awarded themselves hefty salaries and allowances at the expense of company's clients. I was part of the company's clients who were struggling to get basic medical attention, commonly known as salary gap. There was what we call salary gap, kupismas. Ukaenda kuzinara, vakarova mari. This is corruption. This is not what I'm talking here. There is no sanction here that would give 𝗭𝗵𝗄𝗕𝗪𝗏 powers to award themselves hefty salaries. There is no sanction that would allow Chitukutuku to abuse company funds, company resources, buying themselves state-of-art vehicles. That is corruption. It's not sanction. So ukazwa anotanzi masanction avana vembavha vari kuya vachinyora zvavanoda vachiva kuti masanctions. Tell them no. Sanction cannot tell 𝗭𝗵𝗄𝗕𝗪𝗏 to award himself and other executive members allowances at the expense of the company's clients, civil servants who were contributing to them. Waiti ukaenda kuchipatara wanga usingarapo kanzi top up yeuchibhadhara service aid, medical aid. Zinara National Road Administration, look at the state of Lomagund Road today. Mari yese yakaenda na Chitukutuku, Frank Chitukutuku. So thank you Nkoma Mate. When injustice becomes a law, then injustice becomes duty. So we are merely watching this happening in our country. This happened under our noses. And the Zimbabweans, we were doing nothing about it. Salary gate yakanetsa kuZimbabwe, which was abuse of office and abuse of power. That abuse of office and abuse of power, these are not sanctions. These are non-sanctions. These are not sanctions. Abuse of power, abuse of office. These are not sanctions. Ndofunga murunyatsoondinzwa vana veZimbabwe. So when we are going for an election, it's up to you to continue suffering by putting an X. Unomboziva kuti bhilo inokusunungura. Bhilo. Evashapwi. Kungotora kusaka X, ashimbotori 2 seconds. Watosunungura upenyu hwako. Watowana chikafu chekudya, watowana pekugara. Watowana chipatara chine mushonga. With this ballpoint, just putting an X. You don't need a gun. You don't need to fire a gun. You just need to go write an X. Vamwe watoziva kuti X chi. Unoenda udai. X box. Ndiye X wandutaura. This X can make you, can improve your life, can make you eat, can make you have roof over your head, can improve your life tremendously. That X. So a lot of people do not know that their power is within this ballpoint. If you put your X on Zanu PF, you have promoted what we call nepotism and favoritism. It will continue, where their children will get advantages. Nepotism simply means giving an unfair advantage to a relative or associate in order to get position of influence, regardless of their abilities. I was talking about Mdara 𝗬𝗠𝗕𝗪𝗀 Mdara wanakashanda naye kuchikurubu. That old man was incapable of reasoning. That 𝗬𝗠𝗕 could not reason, could not use his brains. And on. But he was just being given rank as promote wachienda corruptly. So most, if you go, especially in the uniformed forces, those in police can agree with me. Those in army can agree with me. Those in the prison services can agree with me. That Madara Anabava, they've given their relatives or their associates advantage, unfair advantage. They got into positions of influence, regardless that their abilities were questionable. They were not even competent for those ranks. And this is common in the employment sector in Zimbabwe. Today, if you go to Zimbabwe today, ukashika ku prison, go and count how many vana Mnangagwas are there. Count how many vana Chinamas are there. Look at this guy who died, a policeman who died in Chinoy. 4 of his relatives are in the police force. And there are more than that. But in his family, his close brothers and sisters are all in the police force. Mushawese na mapurisa baba. Ndakambotaura musi ndiri head office kuti kwararo. Ndikati panapa mu office munomu mukafiwa ndosara ndiri ndega ndisina hama mukajira. Vese office inovharwa kuenda kumusha. Zvinonyadzisa izvo zvazve. Pamunosvika kumusha unenge uri musha wemagadhijeri kutanga muchavaka jeri pamba. Muri menyu moshaika ari nani anoti ndinouyawo nemotikari parufu ndo patakadzidza zvakawanda. Uwe anoya nemota obva kuti aini ndaya nemotikari. Uye anotenga kofi, aini ndine mari yekofi kana asina towedzera tobatsirana. Uye ndotenga chikafu tonofidha vanhu. But kana musha wenyu wese muri magadhijeri kana muri mapurisa muri kuhora less than $100 a month. Mafirwa nababa munovaviga nei? Mari yechikafu chaiyo munenge musina. Otherwise unozviita luck rekuti pamwe unenge uchicontributa kafuneral police. But normal life amungatauri muri yese munoshaika munhu ari nani. Mese munenge muchipfeka machemba ayaya. Njombo inorwadza. So that's nepotism, favoritism, cropping up in the prisons, cropping up in the police army. Ezvo zvava kuti kana vakurekruta ndakavabvunza mukembi kuti hapana ane mwana asiri kushanda kana ane hama isiri kushanda. So they are creating a prison service or a police force for relatives and friends. Kana usina hama iriko zvavharana. Kana usina shamwari iriko zvavharana. No outsider will be able to be recruited. Ukana recruit or an outsider, you won't get promoted. Kuna prison akunyorwe matestika. It's on merit ruler. Nongonzi wakasmaira stere ngwasikana vamagaro makuru oti ko zvibutsa anomuka achinzi nhasi wasuperintendent hapana anobvunza why. Regardless of their inabilities and competence, they are just promoted. That is corruption. Apa pandutaura apana sanction rukupinda. But so far what I've said here, there is nothing that you can blame sanction on. It's all corruption. It's all corruption. If you see under corruption, nepotism takes place when officials favor relatives and friends, disregarding the capabilities of other members of society, disregarding the capabilities of other members of the force who might have better skill. I'm a very good example. I had better skill. I had better knowledge. I had better qualifications. And the so the issue, issue, for example, during Mugabe era, there was this young man in 𝗖𝗍𝗥 son-in-law of Robert Gabriel Mugabe, Eustace Ngawe. He was appointed Chief Operations Officer at Air Zimbabwe when he was known to be ordinary pilot. The guy was simply an ordinary pilot. From being an ordinary pilot, the guy was named or was appointed Chief Operations Officer, which is nepotism of Air Zimbabwe. Asaka ndakaramba chibaza cha mdara wangu ichishuwa mdara. My friend vari 4 now ku prison, same family. And we're going to Brian. It's so pathetic. Family 1, you know, imboita kuti mumwe mungaite MCIO, right? Kana mdaka kana mchifavor government, mungaite MCIO, muita mugajeri, muita msoja, muita mpurisa. You come from different departments. Bozi rombora kanaka uzerobva kupi. But chidzisai one out of all these people as a chief executive. Mbana uya 𝗖𝗎𝗥 was an ordinary pilot. Munangane less hours of flyer foot. But they brought him, they appointed him Chief Operations Officer of Air Zimbabwe when he was just an ordinary pilot. The case of Lois Matanda Moyo, who was appointed Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission chairperson, and because of his wife of Usiso Moyo, who was the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So we look at the Gwanda solar project, which was awarded to 𝗭𝗓𝗥 simply because he was connected to the first family. Zimpana weakness because he had connections with the Mugabe family. He was appointed to be given a Gwanda solar project. Anga asina even sando chaiche kunogadzira ipapo anga asina. And he was awarded that weakness. Simba was given to the Chief Executive Officer with Air Zimbabwe. This was a very good example of nepotism. Aina kutangira pasi, yakatangira president's office. Sama ndaita rangati kana chingocha chavanotuka chakatangira from president's office. Every corruption in our country started from the top. And one, if you look at the awarding of multi-million-dollar air travel contract to marry Chiwenga, because Angari Mukadzi wa Chiwenga, this was done without even going to tender, despite the existence of Civil Service Travel Bureau, which handles government air travel. But they saw it fit to award that tender to Mary Chiwenga, Visa Civil Service Travel Bureau, which always handled government air travel. the distribution of rough relief maize, presidential inputs, corruption, nepotism, farming implements, Zanu PF on nepotism, and all those are only got by Zanu PF members. And their supporters, few, would also benefit at the expense of the deserving, starving rural people. Vanenge took food aid. Apparently, food aid. Vanenge door to door, bisa $3, bisa $4, ya $7. Sagareshi bagareta $7. So otherwise, Zanu PF is taking chibage chino donate to feed my rural families for free. You have to take my rural families. The same with the presidential scholarship, which have been benefiting highly connected students. We have also seen development being skewed towards a certain section of the country. And certain projects that were supposed to have been done long time ago, even Kumatebeleland, they are still edging behind. Apana zirikuitwa because of nepotism. Mashonaland are given first preference. Not all Mashonaland, where the Mashonaland is, ukaenda kumash central, unorwadziwa. Mukumbura kunoka, amana wane mukumbura vakatambura. Ukaenda kumkumbura unofuata wapinda mu war zone today. Kana tara hakuna. Not all Mashonaland are benefiting from this. But kumkumbura kumaye mjuru, ndo waive member of parliament. Vachienda ako on daily basis vari ministers havana kumboisa effort yekusatara kusvika kumukumbura. Unenge uchifamba mudhasti unosvika kwekukosora. Zvinhu zvinorwadza munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. Zvinhu zvinorwadza. Ukatarisa, let's look at a very good example. The 𝗭𝗂𝗥 Dam and the Zambezi water project. Zvakaitwa here, zvakapera here. How many years vachingotaura nezvazvo? In fact, countries that are ethically diverse, such as Zimbabwe, Nigeria, vana Sudan, vana Uganda, vana Rwanda, are likely to be more corrupt than those of low diversity, such as vana Botswana. Chinhu chatikanganisa kutarisa chirudzi, kutarisa ndudzi. Unobva kupi unotaura chirudzi chipi. Kana ndiri mushona ndikaenda kumatebhelele pakanzi patorwa vanhu pano ndotoripinda basa. Takakura tichitambura isusu muna Karoi. Vanhu vataikura navo mashona vaingopiwa basa kucouncil. Vapedza zvikoro vaingonzi basa rako riripo. Inini handina kana dhera ndakambopiwa basawo necouncil. Hanzi nachamu ndapinda Shapiro. Usatsvaga chirungu big sharp. Anditi mukona nyaya dzati kutaura. Hanzi mabranda aya takasvika kukura kusvika tatochembera takatobuda Karoi tikashanda kugovernment tikabuda. Hapana kana musi watakamboconsiderwa for employment even in council. Because tiri mabwidi. Zvinhu zvinorwadza. Because if you look at Zimbabwe, the people turn to ethnicity. And more, turn for favors. Align anima tribes. Zvinhu zvinorwadza. So the name of corruption, guys, in post-independent Zimbabwe is largely a response to the character of colonialism. Zvakaoma. Because we were under the colonial rule for quite a long time. Kubva kuma-30s. Zvaitwa nevarungu. Varungu used this nepotism and corruption. Murungu, ndakambokashanda kuChinoi, a good example. Pave nechimwe chibhonda chechirungu chaine mazina akaora chaigara muChinoi memwe. Chakamboya chichishanda, ndaishanda paRussell's Cafe. Icho chaishanda paitwa zvema-vegetables pasi peRussell's Cafe. Chaishanda ipapo waitwa chiona sowanzwa tsitsi chimurungu. Chakabva chara chikatorwa chikaendeswa kuFawcett. The next thing, he became a manager of Fawcett. Ari Fawcett iko kanga atopuwa imba, atopuwa kambani ka, atopuwa chi. Akutochena, akutopfeka hembe dzakanaka. Nepotism yakabva kuvarungu. Bosi vanga vasingakwanisa kutrasta munhu mutema, vaitora murungu kunyange asina kudzidza achipuwa basa. Even in the UK today, nepotism is still here. Ndakashanda pane imwe kambani ndakapesera ndaudza manager ndikati kana watochinja hunhu hwako kuona munhu mutema semuranda, I'll come back. Andiri maona. Saka ndo nyaya tikutaura, ladies and gentlemen. For today it's 10:30. I think ndapfuura time naifanirwa kupedza. So I'm talking about corruption mazuva ano. I'm trying to highlight to Zimbabweans so you guys know exactly the difference between corruption and sanction. So I want you to know that it's not sanction, it's corruption that destroyed Zimbabwe. Payapoendwa vanasimba chikore, it's not sanction. Vanakadzi bedu vachiziva mazimari, it's not sanction. Andi murikona. Vana bribery, vana nepotism, ndo Zanu PF culture. So if you see yourself supporting Zanu PF, putting an X on Zanu PF, that means you are part of a corrupt nature. You don't deserve to be near any source of power. Andimanzwa nyaya tikutaura. Saka let's meet tomorrow, guys. Zvanhasi chirega ndimirire pana boss ndapfuura time yangu. We want to talk tomorrow about bureaucracy. We want to talk tomorrow about shortages of goods on the market. This is not, the shortage of goods on the market is not because of sanctions, but it's because of corruption. We are going to look into a political patronage. That is not sanction at all. So we will look at institutional framework, which is not sanction at all. I want you guys to get to know that this is just a scapegoat. Thank you, Cindy. Sanctions are just a scapegoat. There is totally nothing that the sanctions are affecting you on. But it's corruption that has caused everything that we see today. So for today, ladies and gentlemen, musare zvakanaka, not good night. Kana pana nemubvunzo ndisandaenda, I would be happy to answer your question if I can. Nachimirira ndinzwe vaiva hanzina atete precious hanziku hanzi thanks Yahweh for the truth. Thank you so much. Hanzi good night Yuda poshichirara shamwari. Good night Lavi enda unorara. Anditi maona ngatirari. Good night Zimbabweans. I've at least shown you that it's not sanction, it's corruption. So when Zimbabweans talk, let's start to say corruption must go. When the corruption goes, then sanction must go. I want sanctions to go as soon as yesterday. But I want corruption to go first before sanctions. If corruption goes, then sanctions should go. We are all ready to engage even the Americans at any level to tell them that, look, our country is now clean. We've got no sanctions, we've got no corruption at all. People are not being killed. People are choosing their leaders freely. Elections are free and fair. Because everything that I've said here is under the umbrella of corruption. Rigging election on its own is corruption. Bribery, stealing, nepotism, a lot of things are all corruption. So what I'm saying to the people of Zimbabwe, I'm saying good night. Mose tose hanzi veZimbabwe changamukai changamukai tiri kutongwa nembavha changamukai veZimbabwe changamukai changamukai tiri kutongwa nembavha changamukai inini Yuda ndakaramba zvekutongwa nembavha ndakaramba inini chete ndakaramba zvekutongwa nembavha. Changamukai veZimbabwe, changamukaiwo, muri kutongwa nembavha. First corruption must go, then sanctions to go later. Thank you, Cindy. We are saying sanctions will go later after corruption goes. Let's eliminate corruption. Ukaona X yako pa Zanu PF, you are promoting corruption. You don't need to vote Zanu PF for corruption to go. Mose changamukai, tiri kutongwa nembavha, changamukai. VeZimbabwe, changamukai, muri kutongwa nembavha, changamukai. Inini Yudha ndakaramba, zvekutongwa nembavha, ndakati kwete. Ndakaramba kutongwa nembavha. Andimona. Tairara chirara, dirihora iro. Vanogara mudiriho rarembanje. Vanogara mudiriho, vakomana vanogara mudiriho rarembanje. Vanogara mudiriho, usatambe navo, vanogara mudiriho rarembanje. Vanogara mudiriho, diriho rairo, vanogara mudiriho rarembanje. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Ndinozoda election yachauya nhasi. I think let's spread this video. Video is very important. Let's spread it all over Zimbabwe. Regai vanhu vari kumamisha vanzo zvandiri kutaura. Regai vanhu vari muHarare vanzo zvandiri kutaura. Musanyengerwa nevarakashi muchinzi hanzi sanctions. Hakuna zvakadaro. Corruption has destroyed us. So let's stop it. Let's stop Zanu PF. Let's vote Zanu PF out of power. Kana pakati by election varatizei kuti isusu ndisitodetermina munhu watinoda. Musauzwe neZanu muzitivhoterei. Determinai munhu wamunoda. Manzwa. Ndatenda hangu. Good night Mazimba.